Hey, David
Hello.
Merrill.
Hi, Michael Joseph. All right.
All
Well, I've been
right.
looking forward to this coffee chat. Got an amazing success story.
I like to
And
hear those. Go ahead.
yeah, and what I mean by success stories, it really shows a lot of calculation and contemplation by the United States Treasury in refunding a full year of withholdings for a suitor, and the suitor was basically just starting, or he had never even done any of the actual demands for redemption. So there were no demands in place for the redemption on 2019, and he got a full year's refund of
Wow.
those withholdings plus penalties and interest.
Wow.
And the only way to get that done would be to have the Treasury withdraw those funds use from the international central banking. I think the Bank of International Settlements could order the Treasury to do something like that, but the Treasury would only be able to do this. And so once we found this done, I think what I'm going to do is go back to a method we were using up until about 4 years ago, and we were using it for 2 or 3 years, and that would be to say, if I had known
Right.
that I could have been redeeming lawful money, I would have been doing so ever since my first paycheck ever. Okay, so you're
Yes.
basically calling the Treasury on fraud or the Fed on fraud because the Fed never really properly um, informed you about your remedy to redeem lawful money and make it, Section 16 of the Fed Act and Title 12, Section 411 of the United States Codes. It's right there. I mean, but who goes there to read? And your civics teacher and your parents have been
Nobody.
inadvertently, ignorantly keeping you from your remedy from central banking and rigors of debt as the basis for currency and the delusion that debt can be sustainable. And so I think with that said, I've just basically covered quite a few things. And as we develop this mission statement, which is to carefully regulate the release valve systems of a highly compressed information infrastructure, which creates these delusions, that the only alternative you have is to endorse the private credit on the back of your paycheck. Now, in standard, paper paycheck, you sign that, or else we're not going to cash your check or deposit your check.
Right.
And so that's really holding the central banking system in a place where debt can be sustainable, and special drawing rights can be the basis. Now, if you want to find out about special drawing rights, I'm throwing a whole bunch out there before I get into this, explaining this success story, because I think it's good to refresh people. But just Google Fed assets current, and you'll come up with a current asset report. It's just 1 or 2 pages, and there's some footnotes underneath the figures. And these footnotes describe the special drawing rights system as the basis for the value that's being planted within the currencies of the worldwide central banking. Now, with that said,
Well, before you continue,
yeah,
then, so
yeah,
basically,
go ahead.
you're saying that the central bank continues to, like you were saying, the sustainable debt continues to be in place based on the ignorance of people being taught or conditioned to just flip the check over and sign the back of it, which is effectively endorsing the central banking system. And but if we learn another way, um, then this debt-based system, you know, would cease to be propped up, and that's where I'm excited to hear about your success story.
Mm-hmm.
And man, please continue. Thank you.
Well, thanks for plugging that in, because I can really simplify things. For 3 years, this was working to get refunds for reported tax years from the IRS, not directly from the Treasury, but it was working for 3 years. And then about 4 years ago, maybe, it stopped working. And so we've got one thing called fraud by omission. We're saying you defrauded me by omission by not teaching me about my remedy. and then simplified. The other, the doctrine that came apart was, that came to the front was that, ignorance of the law is no excuse. I mean, there's
Right.
your remedy. It's right there. You're expected to be able to read and know the remedy when you see it. So you didn't exercise your rights in the law, and it's not our fault that you didn't know the law. So that's very good that you brought that into play, because I was able to explain what happened through the history. So now with that history explained, the new suitor, he was he had a friend. That's how he got in touch with me. A friend was reading about me on the internet and just took the stamp, went and got the stamp made up off the photographs you find peppered around the little pocket stamp, and he put those on his printed out check stubs for electronic deposits, and then sent those to the IRS and got full refund of all his withholdings for 2019. And so this fella called me up and he said, okay, I get on the lesson plan here, and I want to do the same thing. And I said, okay, would you like to publish this on Pacer? I think that it would be very effective. It kind of puts them in a spot because it's published, but it gives you the authority behind it. And he was all very eager to do that. And then so we did in California, we did a miscellaneous case file where he actually had his tax return in there redacted. A lot of the information was blacked out, but he wanted that published, and the judge was named Burns, I believe. And that's the chief judge of that district. And the chief judge wouldn't publish any of the things. He said these proceedings are private on the Pacer report, but we actually threatened the clerk of court that you are breaking the law if you don't publish this filing. So the clerk did publish it, but the judge wouldn't allow any details there. But it did say, in regards the redemption of so-and-so, and it also said for and for the benefit of the United States.
Ah.
Yeah. And so that's what we were doing, is we're giving the United States a chance to stay in honor. And so the judge, as an attorney, seemed to see that, but he also saw the limits to what we could make him do. So he stopped there. It was filed. It said that this is in regards to the redemption of a man, and it also said on and for the behalf of the United States. That's what the wording I was looking for. And so we have a beneficiary there named the United States. So this corporation is the beneficiary, and we're doing this so that the United States can stay in honor. Now that was important. So it just sat there for a long time until I finally, told them, well, looks like you're going to have to start redeeming in 2020, or start redeeming in 2021, actually. And then you're going to see your first redemption with return of all your withholdings in 2022 when you file for 2021.
Mm-hmm.
But what we have here is evidence that you're pretty much guaranteed you're actually going to start seeing your withholdings returned when you have a full year of making your demand properly. Yeah.
Well, now you talked about you filed in, and can you tell us more about that? Because you talked about a judge and a clerk. What do you mean by that? How did you do this?
Well, he sent his tax return to the IRS campus, the U.S. District Court, and to the U.S. Treasury.
Okay, so when you say the U.S. District Court, he must have filed a lawsuit or some kind of case versus what, the IRS or something in the court. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's what he did. It was his first and middle name versus the United States of America. As far as the filing went, that's how the clerk interpreted it. It was actually a notice of redemption. And I'll be sending sanitized pictures of this, and you can put those on the video.
Okay,
so
wonderful.
That people can see this, and I've got this all documented through and through. Now the judge finally, just a couple weeks ago, said, "I'm rejecting this filing," and told the clerk to mail it back to him, and he got it back in the mail about 2 days before he got his full refund with um, penalties and assessments, um, penalty and interest that for the delay from the U.S. Treasury.
Now,
Now,
this
yeah,
isn't
go ahead.
this is not a liability review though. This is something else. And is this something that anybody can do? Can anybody go and do the same thing that's been done before? Do you have to have anything special to do this, or talk about that a little bit?
Well, in this case, the suitor lived near the courthouse, so he just went over to the federal court, paid $47 to file it,
Okay,
and
so
then
$47 is the fee to open up a case. Is there
a
is,
miscellaneous, yeah, that's a miscellaneous case file, whereas a libel of review is a civil suit, and that's going to cost 400.
so miscellaneous case file $47, but a judge still sees it. I mean, there are two parties in conflict here, and the judge is still ruling over it, right?
Yeah, that's the way it turned out. I mean, the clerk has certain rules that he follows. So
Right.
basically, he took the senior judge, the chief judge there, and selected this chief judge, and his name is Burns. That's still on the papers that will be assisting readers to listen to this coffee chat. And so the chief judge was assigned over this, but it went in as a notice. That's what it was. It was a notice of redemption. That's what
Oh,
it's called. And
right.
it was only one page, really, just led over a little bit, signature line to the second page. And yeah, this is just, and the page really was just a threat on the clerk that you better publish this, or, inciting the laws about publishing it. So it's really nothing but a tax return, but it was published. It was redacted. Some of the details were taken off of it, and the redeeming returns are very simple. They're just making simple claim on the withholdings only. So there's
Now
really
I
not.
think I understand. When you say you sent one to the Treasury and to the United States District Court and then to the IRS, what
Mhm.
you're doing is you're the one you sent to the district court was the one that you used to open up or the suitor used to open up the miscellaneous filing cabinet, or the what did you call it? The miscellaneous court case or
Yeah,
case?
miscellaneous case.
Got it.
Yeah, it's a miscellaneous case, $47, and saves quite a bit of money from the libel of review. But we
Right.
do have a libel of review development that's happened, but I think we'll
But
do
but
another
it
coffee chat
establishes
on
a
that.
record, right, Dave? Doesn't it? I mean, now you've got
Yeah.
a filing cabinet in the United States District Court to keep a record, and you can go in and get certified copies if you need at that point off of that filing cabinet, right?
Yeah, but for several months, the clerk wouldn't provide the certified copies because the clerk or the judge had not ruled on it yet. So
Ah,
all the judge ruled was, is I'm not showing anything on Pacer, but here's what you need. This is regarding the redemption of so and so, and it's on and for the behalf of the United States. Okay, so the essentials were published, but his private matter about the return wasn't published.
right.
And so the first thing we did was the miscellaneous case file for publication. I thought that the return would be there, and then you'd just be able to send that document, the certified copy of it, to the IRS and the U.S. Treasury. But it never happened like that. I think it was pretty obvious that's what I was intending for this suitor to have happen. So the judge didn't want to do that because the judge would have been cooking the books for the United States Treasury, meaning since he was endorsing private credit from the Fed, his paychecks and his funds and his substance were being used in the central banking system. And so it finally turned out in the end, just to simplify things, it turned out in the end the only party that could do that would be the U.S. Treasury. And that's what happened in the end is the U.S. Treasury sent him his refund check.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so the steps that really happened, yeah, thanks. It is. That's why I was excited to share it. And I hope I didn't get too disjointed in my excitement for the listener to follow easily that what we did first is publish his demand for 2019, and we're
Published in the United States District Court, right?
right. That's called PACER. That's the United States Publication Service.
Right.
And so it was published for everyone to see that this is a redeemed man on and for the behalf of the United States. That's the reason we're doing it, is so that the United States can stay in honor and not go into fraud by omission. And I touched upon that at the beginning. And so at the beginning, I had some things that you're probably going to have to listen to 3 or 4 times to understand the mission statement. And what the judge was helping me do as my mission is to carefully regulate these release valve systems. I mean, if everybody turns and does this at once, if everybody understands it, we'll have this quantum breakthrough that's going to destroy central banking and probably have a terrible impact upon the lifestyles of everybody.
That's right.
So, yeah, so what we do is where the redemption is for those that are ready to make this quantum leap into a new understanding and a better economy that's not based in debt, that's based in direct substance. And so I think the first part was to publish, and then that didn't go through as we thought, but I just told him, well, go ahead and send your tax return in with this, with the printout of the PACER screen, you know. And so he did send it to the IRS campus that he usually deals with, and he also sent it directly to the U.S. Treasury. Now, the one to the U.S. Treasury, apparently the judge and the USPS and everybody else was talking, Department of Justice. They were all talking with one another because it got delayed. I mean, registered mail is the most reliable way to get things to the Treasury,
right,
and anywhere. And what we've been seeing is that they apparently are diverting it and delaying it and opening it and reading it on the way and so forth, which is illegal. And so this mail fraud was happening on the way there, but it got to the Treasury and then it just stayed silent. Everything went silent, and the judge wouldn't publish any details. And then finally the judge published a refusal to ordering the clerk to mail it back, but it's still right there on PACER, on and for behalf of the United States regarding the redemption of so-and-so. And so we have a demand for redemption that's being published, and also the U.S. Treasury was able to take and adjust the books so that that endorsement wouldn't be a double entry.
Well, now I want to stop you for just a minute here. Did the judge in the miscellaneous case, did he ever make a ruling, is my first question. And the second that I have is, did the suitor file his check at, his accounting from the Treasury in that, a copy of it in that miscellaneous case file for the judge and the whole world to see on PACER?
Okay, he actually had his tax return in the filing.
Okay, now I guess what I'm saying is, if the Treasury, the way I understand you saying that the Treasury not only sent him back his withholdings, but they paid him interest and they returned penalties that they had imposed.
Yes.
So they must have had an accounting with that, and they must have had a check associated with that accounting. Did the suitor make a copy of that and publish that in his case file for the judge and the clerk and the whole world to see, should they want to come looking?
No, the case file is basically terminated for publication. No, he didn't. He hasn't proven that he's gotten that check and published that.
Got it.
So I think that that's probably the better way to go.
He's probably overjoyed to
Oh yeah.
to see that, oh my God, the world is, it's not the way I thought it was, right?
Yeah, and it's come out to close to $10,000 in his pocket now.
Good for him, man. Good
Yeah.
for him.
So he's a fairly highly paid professional with a regular work, and so it turned out to be pretty good. And now he's about ready to file for 2020, and this is, he's just very joyous about it.
Why not do the same path over again,
Well, that's exactly what he's going to do. Maybe not the publication. I don't know if that's really necessary. I mean, he'd have to open up a new case file. Yeah, just, but that's fine. Do it and repeat it.
$47 is nothing in the face of 10,000, you know. So
Yeah,
that's
that's right.
right.
That's right. So, yeah, I think you're probably right. Probably just duplicate the process. I'm about ready to duplicate it with a new suitor now on the lesson plan.
Oh, that's
And
great, man.
yeah, just duplicate that process. He goes, well, I think I'll start them.
See,
We'll
I
go.
love these kind of stories because it gives people confidence in the law. You know, it gives them they can reestablish the trust, so to speak. You know, and not feel like they're
Mhm.
being ripped off 24/7. You know.
Yeah, and at the real heart of the success story is showing that the attorneys and the financiers in the U.S. Treasury calculated and contemplated this refund.
Mm.
So they're not going to come back and try and get it later. There's not going to be anything about a frivolous penalty because this came directly out of the Treasury.
Yeah, that's a good point. Who else could do that? You know, that's a good point.
Yeah, I'm thinking the Bank of International Settlements could come to a judgment to order on the U.S. Treasury to do it, but here the Treasury just did it on its own accord. It took a lot of thought and even some mail fraud trying to delay and figure out what can we do about avoiding the notification. You know, you're served, U.S. Treasury. Well, they try and prevent that, and there's some things going on. One of the suitors is she's looking for a dual citizenship, and she needs a forgiveness letter from the Treasury,
Hmm.
and they've got some leverage on her through notice of federal tax lien and so forth, and it's going to mar her ability to get her citizenship, dual citizenship, and she'll have to go back to South Africa otherwise, and she doesn't want to do that. And so this time, it was addressed to the U.S. Governor for the International Monetary Fund, who is the same one and the same as the Secretary, Stephen Turner Mnuchin. And it went to Jamaica, New York, near Washington, D.C., and then it went to Miami, and now it's sitting in Miami for like 6 weeks in international customs.
Good night.
Yeah, registered mail. And so they're really messing with this lady really bad, as far as her life plans and her lifestyle and everything, and her citizenship, in order to do this. But I think what I really see the attorneys thinking is, well, you're talking United Nations now. You're serving Stephen Turner Mnuchin in his other hat, which is the U.S. Governor for the International Monetary Fund, which
Right.
is an organ of the United Nations.
Right.
So we can treat this as international mail, even though it was mailed from California.
And that's effectively what we were doing. I mean, when I did my libel review back in, I think it was '08,
Mm-hmm.
I tried to put service on Hank Paulson, and they said you got to give him 60 days, and I said I do not. I'm not serving him as a U.S. officer. I'm serving him as his governor of the IMF. And I told him, I said, but I'll go on and give him 60 days. I give him 120 days. He won't respond. You know?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and they
Uh,
didn't. They just didn't show up. Um,
yes.
the
Well,
United
it's true.
Nations showed up, but the other ones didn't show. Well, this is wonderful, man. Well, what
Mm-hmm.
else, Dave?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and put together a compilation of photos to show, and I'll even suggest the order that you would want to put them in, so that people can watch the video and see the documentation behind it.
Okay.
And so we're getting to that point, 25-minute mark.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm glad it worked out the way it did. It was a great call.
Yeah, wonderful, Dave. Thanks for sharing. And this is
Hmm.
just, I think this is going to give people some encouragement. Man, God, this is great. Great
Well,
penalties
and
too, man,
yeah.
and interest. Hey,
All
Dave,
right then.
listen, good talk, man. And
Okay.
I really thank you so much for sharing this. This has been really nice, really good.
Okay. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye now.
Bye bye.